You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Successful Screenwriter Podcast, where we discuss anything and everything screenwriting. Here we interview successful screenwriters and filmmakers to find out just what it takes to make it in the industry. All right, welcome to the podcast. We have an awesome guest on today, Emmy award-winning producer and director of the Michigan 48-Hour Film Fest, Jennifer Gentner. Jennifer, thanks for being on with us.
Well, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
No, I wanted to bring you on and discuss the 48-Hour Film Fest because I think it's a really cool for screenwriters to do, to kind of dip their toes into the process and see all facets of filmmaking. But before we really dive into that, I want to get Jennifer's origin story.
So how it all began?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. Filmmaking has been something I wanted to do forever. Just wasn't really sure that I could. I was just thinking about this the other day. It was funny. I actually worked in childcare for like a decade.
Okay.
And I did it because I was a single mom.
Yeah.
It kind of helped pay for everything. But I was just thinking the other day about how when I was working with kids and everyone would go down for a nap.
Right.
I always had my screenwriting, like a screenwriting book with me.
Oh.
So when the kids were asleep, like there'd be like a little bit of light coming through and I would be trying to hold my book up and,
awesome.
Trying to read and learn about how to write screenplays. Mm-hmm. And this was a long time ago. That was probably 15 years ago or more. But then eventually, as my daughter got older, I decided to go back to school. I went to Washtenaw Community College in Ann Arbor, and I studied digital video production.
Yeah.
I went back to school with the intention of becoming, I really was interested in directing. I was really interested in writing.
Okay.
And then I really kind of fell into producing. I learned a lot about producing. I started competing in the 48 while going to school there.
Okay.
I was a competitor for about 8 years. And I really learned how to produce being on that team. That's really where I learned how to do all of it. And then eventually I went back to school to Full Sail University and got my bachelor's degree. And
wow, look at you.
Yeah, look at that.
But yeah, you really kind of fell into it. You had the bug early.
I did.
So going into the 48 as a screenwriter, what was your intent? Because I've done a 48.
Okay.
And so I guess we should just cover real quick the rules of 48 in case anybody listening hasn't really had the opportunity to be baptized in fire.
Yes.
So let's go through the 48 film hour first. Of course, you have 48 hours to shoot and complete a short film.
Yep.
But let's just walk us through the process real quick. Okay.
Yeah. So usually the Friday night before it all starts, we have a kickoff event where everyone will actually pull a genre. Mm-hmm. So you don't even know what genre you're going to get. And it can be anything from comedy to horror to fish out of water story to a political film. It just ranges all over. So you get a genre to write for, and then we give you 3 elements, a character you have to use, a prop, and a line of dialogue. That's how we know you've done it in 2 days.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yes, that's where we get you. And then you go off and you write everything, you shoot everything, you edit everything in 2 days over that weekend.
Right.
Yeah. It's
Turn
intense.
it all in. Yeah. And you have people going to the wire, right? Like editing, walking through the door.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it is intense. Luckily on my end, so I came in as a writer. A friend reached out and was like, hey, let's do this. I was like, sure. Hell yeah. Why not? Sounds fun. I always wanted to do 48. So I was just on the writing end. I came in, we had our prop. We got drawn with a paranormal / witch horror film thing.
Okay.
We had our line and the line didn't make sense. So I had to fit that in to which film. Yeah.
Yes.
And so we were up until I want to say we got everything at like 7.
Yeah.
And we were up until like 2 or 3 writing this thing.
Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
everybody could be up. I think everybody got up at like 5 the next day.
Yeah.
And they were immediately shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a good schedule to be on. I've done this. I had done it so many times that in my head, I had come up with this like perfect schedule of how it would all go. And of course, I don't think it ever worked out that way.
Right.
but that would have been good if you're shooting by 5. That's awesome.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was in bed. So,
Yeah.
but 48s are great. I think they're great. And I recommend them to writers other than, like getting baptized in that kind of a deadline
Sure.
is great, because when you are a writer, when you do pick up a gig, I mean, you are on a deadline, you're on someone else's dime.
For sure.
And so 48, if you can prove yourself to do that you can do it, I think you should. But the other thing is, you're getting something made.
Yes.
You know?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. That was actually one of my favorite things about it, is that you have something to show for it. I mean, there were a couple of years over the last 10 where sometimes, the 48 was maybe the only thing I was able to make that year.
Yeah.
But I felt good because it was like, oh, it's done. Like it's
Right.
complete. Sometimes people can work on their films, their scripts, all of it, and it can take years.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I know writers that are like, they're just dying to get something made. They want to see their words spoken by an actor on screen. And 48 is a great way to do it.
Absolutely.
It happens. You've got it. It's on your resume. Heck, you even get the IMDb credit for it.
Right. Absolutely. Yes, for sure.
And your work can even go on an international fest run if it's good enough.
Absolutely. The cool part about the 48 is, we screen all the films too, which is awesome, because how many times you get to write something and actually see it on the big screen. So we always screen all the films that get turned in. And then we do have an award ceremony. So, best screenwriting, best directing, best acting, we do it all. And then we have our top 3 films, but the top film will actually go on to Fomopalooza, which is where all the films from all, like the top films from the 130 cities that participate in the 48 will compete. And then we actually take 10 to 15 films to the Cannes Film Festival.
I mean, that's
short,
amazing.
Short film division. That's awesome. So there's potential to really have your stuff seen.
So with the Cannes trip, if you were involved in that, like if you were the writer or you were the director, can you get a ticket to go to
Absolutely.
Cannes? Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, anybody that wants to go can go. They can see their films shown. I mean, in France, that's amazing. So
I think it's such a great tool for a screenwriter to take advantage of, and that I'm in the community alone. Community, like 48-hour people are beautiful people. They're all sleepless. They're all food deprived. They should be crabby and cranky, but they are like the sweetest people around. It's one thing. It's like, how are these people so nice? Like we're all stressed out and everybody's cheering for each other's films. It is a really cool community, as I would say, as a screenwriter, to infiltrate.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. One thing I do think, though, is it's helpful is if you're a screenwriter director, it's probably a little bit easier to get involved in the 48-hour community, because you can get out there, you can start working both of those chops.
Yeah, for sure.
Networking. Yeah. But it's definitely something that I recommend people get involved in. So, and it's all over the country, right?
All over the world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are teams literally all over the world, and just about every continent. I don't think there's a 48 in Antarctica, not yet, but
you'll start
not
it.
Yet. I could.
Yeah.
We'll go on.
That's awesome.
But it's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. So I did go to Fomopalooza this in it would have been 2019. It took place in Orlando.
Okay.
So I did get to go, but I got the opportunity to meet a lot of the filmmakers and the other producers, and I'm a little embarrassed to say, but I met people from countries I didn't even know existed. And
It's
it was fine.
international.
Right. And I didn't feel bad because they were like, where's Detroit? And, of course, so I'm holding up my hand, like they
They're
know
like,
what I'm
"What's
even
wrong with
talking
you,
about.
weirdo?"
Right. And they seriously did. There's a very small city in the Caribbean. And, in Florida, we went down in March. And so it was 60 degrees in Florida. So here in Michigan, I had just left snow and 20-degree weather. So it was amazing. And they're freezing because it was 90 where they're from. And so I'm trying to explain where I'm from. And they're like, no, we never want to go there.
That's hilarious. Yeah, when I went down to Florida and I rolled off and I was in my hoodie and my big thick, jeans, and I was everybody else is in like, short crop pants and bright shirts, and I was like, yep, I definitely stick out.
Right?
Yeah, that's funny. No, that's very true. So what kind of tips would you have for somebody going into a 48 if it was like their first time?
My biggest thing that I tell everybody is just keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get elaborate and you just don't have the time. But some of the best stories take place just by keeping the story simple, keeping your locations simple. I really wouldn't even do more than 2 locations if possible.
2 locations.
I've seen one of the best 48 films I saw took place inside a dumpster. And
it was brilliant.
It was hilarious. It was hilarious. And it just took place inside this dumpster. And it was about a guy who was stuck in this dumpster with a dead man, but it was a dark comedy.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. But I thought, you know what? They really just utilized what they had. And they just worked with it, and it was great. So yeah, definitely try and steer clear of too many elaborate locations and scenes. And you don't need too many people to even make this movie. I've been on teams where we had 40 people on the team.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
A lot of people.
That's like a full crew.
It was a full crew. It was like, I think the first time I had really, been given the opportunity to really produce. And so it was a good experience for me to try and work with everybody, but I don't always advise that for 48 teams. Like the more like simple, focus on the story. Focus on that. The stories, the films that are winning are really story like focused.
Yeah.
And so not to say that they don't have great cinematography and they don't have great music and costumes. I think those are great things to come along with it. But I feel like the ones just have these really great stories. I would definitely say keep it simple. And for writers especially, like, with the 48, although everything is done in 2 days' time, you are allowed to do certain things beforehand. So getting your locations, getting your actors, you can do that beforehand. So if you're saying, tell the writers, we can film here, here, and here, get them some pictures so they get an idea.
Right.
And then have a list of your actors, what they look like, their ages. And that way you can actually write for what you have. Like, don't start writing for things that are just not possible to get during that weekend.
Right. Well, I want to touch on production value for a second, because one thing I noticed when I was doing my festival run and my contest run is you could have like a script or a film that the story, it maybe didn't make sense. Maybe the dialogue was a bit dry.
Sure.
But the production value was through the roof.
Sure, absolutely.
And the cinematography was sharp. And so it was just taking home awards. When you were like, these people didn't even read their dialogue,
right.
And so that's what I wonder, but with the 48, it sounds like that's a bit different. It sounds like just because you have the nice shot, just because you have the production value, it may not necessarily get rewarded. And that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do love to see those things. But like I said, just kind of use what you have. And some of these films have been shot on, iPhones. You
Wow.
don't have to have the best camera out there. I mean, a lot of people feel like, oh my gosh, I can't afford
Yeah, they gotta have a
to
red
do
or
this.
something.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
not the case at all. I think if it is very story driven, and you use the equipment that you have, you know, a lot of people are using DSLRs because they're affordable. I think very rarely do we have, you know, extremely expensive cameras shooting these things.
Well, I mean, there you go. You're hearing it from a director. If you got to shoot it on an iPhone, shoot it on an iPhone. I actually saw one shot on an iPhone. It actually was pretty decent. I was impressed. I didn't know it at first. I will tell you because you were talking about story and how story meant. I saw a short 48 script I thought was fascinating. It was about a guy, and he's just laying in bed next to his girlfriend, and he's talking about how much he loves her. And it's just, you know, like 2 minutes dialogue.
Yeah.
Then he pans over and she's dead. And I was like, whoa, right? And then he goes to this photo album and then shows all these pictures of all these girls. And then he talks about how he's going to go and find the next one he loves. And I was disturbed by that. I mean, I remember driving home thinking, oh my God, like, how do you go there as a writer in 48 hours and think, yeah, I was just going to write it this way.
Yeah.
You know? But then that got me thinking, like, have you had anybody prep a story ahead of time and then try and like fit it in post after they get their genre and their line drawn and stuff like that?
Oh, I have no doubt. Honestly, I think a lot of teams do that. And there's really nothing wrong with that. I mean, how do you stop an idea from popping? You know, like when I was competing, you know, it would be all done. The weekend would be over. I would swear for 2 weeks I'm never doing another one because I'm exhausted. This happened every year. 2 weeks it was about. And I never again. And someone would call and be like, "How did it go?" I'd be like, "It was great. It was fine, but I'm done. I'm out." Right. And then 2 weeks would pass, and I'd go, "Oh man, what if we did this way? What if we could have done that? We should have done that." Yeah. And so then a year passes. It's like you forget the pain, and then you do it again.
Sounds like childbirth, huh?
Yeah, I compare it to childbirth all the time. The 48. That's so funny because that's what I do. I'm like, you forget about that. You have the baby. Time passes. You forget what it's like. Miracle. Right. And they're like, "Oh, I'm having another baby." And then you're like, "Ah, I forgot about this part." Yes. And you swear you're never having another one.
That's fantastic.
So,
This podcast is brought to you by thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com, where you can find instructional videos, blogs, books, and even screenplays from the biggest films in Hollywood, all available for you to download. Visit thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com now and receive a copy of the Guide for Every Screenwriter absolutely free. Yes, free. Just visit thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com. Now, back to our show.
You can't, after doing them after a while, think, okay, what about this idea or this idea or this idea? You can't control that. So it's very easy to, you know, kind of come to the table with your writing partner, if you have a writing team during the 48, or if it's just you. It's hard not to think about some of those ideas you've had before.
So you drive stories mentally, but you're not writing down 30 different scripts ahead of time with different genres prepping for it.
I would hope not. I mean, I think a lot of the fun of this is getting with your team and coming up with something fresh and you're working together. And because you just don't know. You don't know what you could think of. And maybe even by the genre. I hear a lot of teams tell me, they're like, you know, that genre I got completely took me out of my comfort zone. Completely, right? And they were like, that's the best thing that could have happened. Yeah. And sometimes you get those genres or you get those elements or whatever it is, or the specific character, and you can't help. And so even if you come in with an idea, I don't think you can help but change that idea up. Right. And come up with something completely fresh by the time you're done.
Well, I mean, I preach all the time to get out of your comfort zone because that's what forces you to grow as a writer or an artist or a craftsman. And this sounds like a perfect example of it, is just to go in there and, press your luck, see what happens.
Totally.
Yeah. And, totally. And it'll force you to learn how to work with people. I mean, obviously it's going to teach you how to take notes and collaborate. I don't see anything bad coming out of it, sans no sleep
Right.
and
Right.
more stress than you ever thought you could handle.
Right.
Now you run the 48 hour in Michigan. There's only one 48 hour in Michigan. You are the
Yes.
sole heir. You are royalty, madam.
It is me. It is only me.
Yeah. And you're doing a hell of a job. I got to tell you, I
you.
think it's great. I think this year you adapted to COVID, which not easy. We've all had to do it.
We have. It's true.
Yeah, you did. You did a drive-in, right?
Thank you. Yes, I did. We completely connected with Royal Star Film Festival.
Yep.
And we got to kick off their event, by having our event,
so
and
cool.
It was wonderful. I mean, I couldn't have asked for better. It was. I just think it was fun. It was fun. It was just fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
The Royal Star guys are awesome. They're they're good people.
They really are. They're absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So they were a huge help to me this year. Every year, we've always worked together since I became producer. So in one way or another, they're awesome.
Well, that's good. And I'm glad to see that the 48 in Michigan is really thriving and that you are driving that. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with the 48, obviously tons of benefits, right? Getting your IMDb credit, getting collaboration, and possibly an award. Heck, you can even go to Cannes. So I'm not seeing a lot of a downside. So like I run Script Summit, right?
Sure, yeah.
We have some sore losers here and there.
Okay, yes.
In general, we have a strong community that cheers everybody on, and it moves my heart. Yeah. Is the 48 pretty similar to that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Most everyone is happy. I when I took the position on, I talked with the last producer, who actually happened to be the guy that I learned how to produce from. He was our team leader when I was competing as a 48er, Eddie Fritz. Wow. And it just so happened to work out that way. And he talked to me about it and said, there's usually, I have a team, there's always a team who's not really happy. And so I have found that I do have usually each time I have one team who's really, really not happy. and I get the brunt of it, of course, but I get it. It can be super disappointing. I mean,
you put a lot of work in.
Oh, you put so much work into it. You work so hard, and you really feel like, this is it. This is the one. And it's just hard because the competition has just, it's nuts.
It's blowing up, right?
Good. It's blowing up. It's so much different than when, not to say that there weren't great competitors when I was doing it. I'm just saying, like, it has just improved immensely.
That's par for the course. Script Summit, we had some good scripts coming in every year. Yes. And then this last year we had people winning by 0.1%. It's just insane. And I think it's just people are getting better.
It's just better and better.
And as your reach expands, you bring in more talent. It's just how it happens.
It is.
But so with that in mind, though, it sounds like 48 hours are a great networking opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think I'm a wonderful example of that. I am doing projects of my own. I'm producing projects today. Cool. That I am working with people I met on the 48. Like, I met huge. Them doing the 48. There's, I was doing a web series for quite a while, and I teamed up with a girl. I think when we met, I was a location manager, and I think she was working props.
Wow.
And we just got along. We just got along really well. And before you knew it, we were producing a web series together. And I am currently doing a podcast myself now.
Oh, look at you. It's awesome.
Yes. And the guy that I'm doing it with, we met on my first, 48, and he was our actor actually in just about every 48 after that. So
that's so cool.
It really is. You never know who you're going to meet when you're working with someone on a 48. You click with somebody and you're off doing even like bigger things. So absolutely.
And I think that's great because with screenwriters, one thing I find with screenwriters is we tend to be a little introverted. So it can be hard. It can be hard for us to network.
Yeah.
So that's a great opportunity to get in with the community. Go and
yeah.
join a 48. And if you can't do it as a writer because there happened to be a writer director so
Right.
slot, be a props guy,
Absolutely. That is the thing. And
Get
I
on the
noticed
team.
that. Yeah, absolutely. That when I started doing this, that's how people would. They just kind of jumped on. They're like, if I can help PA for a little bit, if I can, doing props, doing location stuff, absolutely. And then before you know it, they just, you work your way up like you would anything else. So
awesome.
It
Wow,
is
that's
great.
fantastic. All right, so
Yeah.
you've done some shows. Were you talking about your baking show? Is that what you were talking about? The show that you had started?
No, actually, that is actually kind of new. So I still have in the works. COVID has kind of put a slight damper on a web series that I created called The Adventures of Pammy Van Patten, Adult Child Pageant Star.
It's a great title.
Say that 5 times fast. We had started filming. We'd been working on that. I've been working on that for a couple years, and it's just it'll be happening.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna set in the back. But yeah, actually, the baking show, it's called Improv Baking,
Awesome.
became because of COVID.
Right, of course.
It's happening because of COVID. So it's me and my friend who's also an actress, an improv actress, Dorianne Jensen. We do a show on Mondays at 5:00. We go live
on Facebook.
On Facebook.
Incredibly brave.
Right. Which is funny because, she's the actress and I am the behind the scenes person. So to be the sidekick on a live TV show was nothing I ever expected, but here we are.
I respect it. That's awesome. And I know being an Emmy award-winning producer, I love the fact that you're out there making stuff. So you've got like a paranormal show going on, right?
I do, yes. So I'm also currently working on a paranormal investigation show. That is actually, we are working on a documentary that we'd like to lead into doing more of a series called Afterlife Encounters.
Okay.
Where we are actually ghost hunting.
Cool.
It's been a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie. A little scary. Maybe a lot of scary.
I can only imagine. So do you have like all the gear? You've got like the EVP and I think that's what it's called.
I've got my digital recorders. I have my spirit box to communicate.
Do you have a proton pack? You would do that to help catch
Absolutely. I've got my suit.
That's awesome. That's great. No, that's cool. And so that's what is that called again?
It's called Afterlife Encounters.
Afterlife Encounters.
And we are currently, please do. We're currently working on the documentary now. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Do you have any final tips for 48 hours going into screenwriting or anything like that?
Well, definitely next year, sign up, be a part of a team. That's my number one tip. If you can't quite find a team and you just want to be a part of one, right. We have a Facebook group called the Detroit 48 Hour Film Project. It's cast and crew. So if you are actor, actress, writer, anybody is welcome to join the Facebook group, and people can connect that way. Normally when COVID is not happening, we do like to have mixers and meet and greets, and so people can connect that way with teams. So hopefully, next year it will be better and we can get back to that. But this is a good way. You can still be at home. It's safe. You can still connect and network with people. And I encourage people to do that now, even though the competition isn't until next summer. Why not work, and start meeting people and do that now.
So when because there's going to be people listening to this from all over the place. So when somebody wants to go into a 48, and they don't have the connections, they can go on a website and get added into like the shuffle where they could potentially end up on a team type of thing.
So, usually, not usually, you do have to be a part of a team before registering.
That's good to know.
Yes. So it is best. And, honestly, once again, you don't need to have a ton of people. Like I said, I've been a part of a 40-person team, but I've also honestly done my best working on a 3-person team.
Okay.
So you don't need too many people. It can be completely done. So even if it's you and a couple of friends and you want to register, our website is 48hourfilm.com. Ours is /Detroit.
Awesome.
So you can register and get more info that way too. We've got just a ton of info. It'll tell you even more. And then I have the Facebook page for the 48 Hour Detroit. You can look up specifically. But yeah, if you're looking to connect with people right now at the time of COVID, the Facebook group for cast and crew is probably the absolute best.
I mean, that sounds where it is. You get on that group and then start mingling, make those connections, and then can whip out your guerrilla style 48-hour film.
That's right.
With all of your filming permits.
Right.
That's with air quotes, people.
That's right.
Well, Jennifer, I gotta tell you, thank you so much for being on. I was so excited to have you from the 48 on here. And
my goodness, thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Absolutely. All right, well, you have a good one.
Thank you. You do the same.